I wanted to introduce today both Alla and Liz. They're going to be talking about their journeys as AI product managers, and I'm going to let them give us a little introduction about themselves and what brought them on this journey, etc. So go right ahead.
So my name is Liz, and I'm a financial advisor turned product manager. I worked at SigFig for the last couple of years. It's a wealth management platform for banks. And there I was really heavily focused on the data, but I just accepted a role at Wealth Enhancement Group. So I'm going to refocus on the front-end experience. And my experience in AI centers on prompt engineering, and also I have like a great interest in algorithmic trading. You can actually start with data, like look at what data you already have, and then find a problem to solve. Because what I see a lot of companies doing, financial institutions, is they look for a problem to solve, but then they have no data to back it up. And then they go down this road for months and months and months being like, I don't know why we can't solve this. And the CEO is like, why aren't you solving this problem? It's because we don't have data. Okay, we don't have data for this. So look at what data you do have. Like if you have all the financial account data, if you have the account profile information, like the income of a client, and I'm just talking in terms of financial services because that's what I know. But if you have all of this, like what can you do with that? So when I was an advisor, one of the things that took me a long time was putting together basically an analysis of how a portfolio did and cross-referencing that with what events were happening in the world, what the macroeconomic indicators were, like jobless claims and stuff like that, trying to put their performance in the context of what was happening. So if I could use the data I have and third-party sources like Exignite and Bloomberg and headlines and like wrapping that all together, that's going to save me 2 hours per client that I have to do an annual review for. So that's one use case for data. And just looking at what you already have, what you can easily access. I think an interesting idea is using what we know about the client to make logical assumptions about them. Like if I know you're this occupation, if I know you make this amount of money, if I see your patterns of withdrawing and putting money in, I might be able to assume what your credit score is. So if you're filling out a mortgage application, I might be able to infer certain points, like what your credit score might be, or what kind of client you might be. So using it to speed up those workflows, I think will be very valuable to the people who are doing something like a mortgage loan servicing or opening a new account. Like how can we just infer something and then maybe, because it is very regulated, like this is risky. Okay, this is definitely risky because you're putting this into paperwork that's going to become, that's what you did. So you got to be careful about doing that and give them the chance to maybe like preview what was assumed based on the existing data and let them edit that.
So I just want to ask, as a follow-on to that, the logic is maybe in financial services, do you have some governance around this is a probabilistic tool that we're using, and therefore we might look at it differently than like obviously a startup, you're just trying to find market traction. It's very different places of use, and you might have some sort of different notions of governance within your company to say, let's look at that one.
Yeah. Well, there's a metric that financial advisors really pay attention to. It's like when you're filing paperwork, if that paperwork gets rejected by the broker, I forgot what it's called, there's a name for it, but you don't want to be above a certain percentage of like paperwork errors, failures. So if you can stay under that, you can prove that whatever you're doing, making inferences, is like it's staying under that threshold, then usually like you probably use it. But you have to create your own metrics like that, or use metrics that already exist.
So your company doesn't have a governance structure to look at where you're using AI and saying, that seems risky. It sounds more like it's a little heuristic.
We have like compliance. Yes, we do have like compliance departments that do that. I mean, we look at like PII. Like we don't want to introduce PII into like LLMs, so we do have a review process, and there was a committee to review decisions being made around those types of things.
So we've talked a lot about like, we need to identify what the LLM doesn't know, and we've just been glossing over that. Like ChatGPT, Claude, all of these companies have designed their models to be very optimistic and fill gaps and like not surface what it doesn't know, not surface those types of vulnerabilities. So how do you basically be antithetical to what those LLMs are designed for, and like get it to derive how it doesn't know what it doesn't know? Like how are you guys trying to do that or trying to combat that?
Great question.
The only way I can think to combat that is like if you limit the number of use cases you can handle and you review those use cases and have users, let's say like you do a trial with just those use cases, like I'm gonna adopt a dog. How will that impact my net worth in like 5 years? I adopted an Italian Greyhound. I bought an Italian Greyhound, and that dog is expensive. Dental cleanings, like let me tell you, this dog's teeth are not good. So I would want to know something like that. So maybe I could, as a product manager, like demo that specific scenario and all the different questions I would ask, but limiting the number of use cases that someone could go through, and then also limiting the number. If I'm going to make a prediction about how much my net worth will be, I'm going to have a limited number of inputs to that. So when I'm having this conversation about adopting a dog, the inputs could be like, how much are you going to spend on dental care? Are you going to buy like health insurance for your dog? How much does the dog cost? Like there's a set number of things that the chat experience would want to know. And beyond that, nothing else matters. Like, I'm not going to pay attention to anything else the LLM does unless it's relevant to this specific decision. So narrowing like the scope of it and like really tailoring to specific use cases. That's what I'm learning. In trying to become the AI product leader in my organization was make sure you have visibility to the people who are making key decisions. It's not just your manager, it's not just your team. It's like the COO. So don't be afraid to set up a meeting with someone like the CEO or the COO to show them like, hey, these are all the great things I'm doing. Because if they don't see your work, then you can easily end up being laid off or cut, and that would be really unfortunate. And then my other big advice is like to get ownership of an initiative is to offer to collaborate, like I talked about earlier. So how can you provide value to someone who already is working on AI so that they'll, in return, give you some opportunity to work on it. And you can actually be really frank with whoever it is you're trying to collaborate with, that you just want to get experience. Like, you're not trying to take over the project, you're not trying to do any of this. Like, how can I provide you value, but how can I also like get something as well? So those are my two big takeaways. Yeah.